Do your cab corners have rust on it and look like this? Well, I'm going to show you how to fix it. The first thing we're going to need is some 3/4 inch tape. Then I'm going to go this way a little bit just to make sure I keep that pattern together whenever I pull this thing off of here. Hopefully that gets rid of all the rust. I think it will. Start peeling it off where I first started laying my tape. That way it all comes off in one good chunk. All right, there we have it. We have our pattern. So now that we have our pattern here, I'm going to go ahead and use some powder. This is actually just flour, but you could use whatever kind of powder. It's just to get the sticky off, because you don't want it sticking to itself or anything like that. Just rub it on there. All right, so now I got my piece of sheet metal, and this is what I'm going to be using for the patch. And what I like to do a lot of times, and I kind of forgot to do it this time, but I like to put where the contour of this bottom of that corner is going to be, and it's going to be somewhere in here. Here's the center. Doesn't really matter. We'll deal with it as we go. But so I'm just going to kind of trace this so I know about where my pattern's going to live here. So I'm going to give me some extra space and just do that. Go ahead and cut that out. What you want to pay attention to is this is how my pattern is going to lay on the panel, and we need to, hammer it out this way. So you'd have to flip that pattern or your panel upside down and start hammering it. And what you want to notice about this pattern is there's a lot of stretch right in here. This is kind of where it's all going to curve. Right in here, this is where that cavity was, so we're going to have to pay attention to that. Make sure we give it a little bit of extra stretch in that area, and we'll just keep hammering it and then checking the panel, and then once we get so far, we'll start rolling it in the wheel. So let's go ahead and start doing that. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start hammering it in this tire. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight full rubber tire. And it really helps with this cavity to get that stretch in it. So I'm going to start with that, and then we'll move over to the bag a little bit later. But I have a full video on taking the rim off of that and whatever. Go check out my other videos. So I'm just going to go ahead and start stretching right in this area. This is what's nice about this tire, is you start getting tucks in it right away. Those nice shrinking tucks. We're not going to need to shrink too much in there, but we do need some stretch. So all right, let's go ahead and check it. So it's actually looking pretty good. We need to hammer a little more right here, get a little more stretch in that area. We got to stretch a little more in this area too, just because, remember, we had that cavity there where we couldn't get that full contour. But keep stretching. Check it again. All right, it's looking pretty good. I got a little bit of extra material on the pattern here, over here, and over here. So really don't need to stretch or shrink up on the edges anymore. We're gonna need to end up stretching a little bit on that. nicely. The reason you leave extra material is so that you can kind of move this pattern around a little bit and find where the pattern fits best. That's actually starting to fit pretty good, but if you need to stretch these edges, you just kind of hold it off of this tire a little bit. Just kind of smack this. It'll give you a little bit of stretch on the edge. Same with this side. And that's all fitting pretty good. Let's go ahead and put it in the wheel and see what happens. So I'm just going to smooth out all these bumps in the English wheel here. No particular order. Just roll it out. Smooth it out. Alright, it's fitting pretty good. I still need some stretching in that corner a little bit, probably around this area. The edges are a little bit loose still, so we just need to make sure that we don't shrink these edges too much more. But let's hammer in here a little bit more and get a little more stretch out of it. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and mark the edges of this pattern pretty much where I want it to live. And start trying to put it in the same spot. So that's where it's fitting the best. Somewhere in that area. Alright, let's check it again. Alright, the edges are still a little bit loose. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim some of this off. That way I could stretch it a little closer to my pattern. So I'll put some magnets on it. So we've got a lot of extra material here, so this needs to open up quite a bit. Okay. Go ahead and trim that. I'm still going to leave some excess on the edges, but I'm just going to trim a lot of this so I don't have to move all that metal. All right, let's put it back in the wheel. So we're smoothing it out again. Let's see. All right, so it's pretty tight now. There's still a little bit loose there. It could really use a little more stretching, but I'm gonna call that good. I'm gonna put this back into arrangement, maybe get the shape of it and put it back on the car and see what it looks like. All right, let's take a look. All right. All right. There we go. That easy. Looks pretty good, really. It could just be put into shape just a little bit more. And this down a little bit. Right after a little bit of moving it around and bending this bottom in a little bit, she seems to fit pretty good. All right, now you guys know how to build a cab corner for your project car. Get rid of that rust. If you guys have any questions or anything, leave them down in the comment section. Hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.